This will be part 2 of aligning the wing and stabilizer on the Fancherized Twister kitted by Walter Umland using the jig set that Walter sells. This jig set's good for multiple airplanes, and this one we used it to align the wing in our first movie, and it worked very well. Those 4 sticks that you see there are the wing alignment jigs, and we're actually going to use those long sticks for adjusting the stabilizer tonight too. The main part of the stabilizer jigs are these 4 short sticks here. You'll see I used the first 2 to find the center line of the stabilizer and pick which hole we're going to pin on these other 2 out at the tips of the stab. So we're going to put one here, we're going to put one here, and that should hold it at exactly the same height on each tip off the table. We're going to double check, make sure it's parallel with the wing, and I've used 2 jugs of cool power under the wing at exactly the same spot to make sure that I have it set at the same height off the table. I have checked it with my square. I marked the center line on the wing. It comes out 5.5 inches there on the ruler, and also on this side it's also 5.5 inches. And for a quick check, it's good to have a divider caliper. These things are good for millions of uses, and this is one of them. I can go right up to the wing, make sure it touches the very top edge of the wing on each side, and we'll check the other side. Exactly the same, and I'll do that throughout the procedure just to make sure that nothing gets bumped. So now that we've got these 2 taped up against the edge of the rudder, and we're going to choose the pinholes that we're going to use, I'll move on to the next step. I marked a hole on the jig up against the rudder that was also aligned with the center line of the stabilizer, and that same hole will be used on both jig pieces at the tips of the stabilizer. I shortened the T-pin so I won't have to stick it too far into my beautiful stabilizer, and I'll use that to pin up both ends. We'll double check the measurements, make sure that it's parallel with the wing and the same height off the table. Now the stab jig is in place as the pin, and check with the ruler. They are indeed exactly the same height off the table, and we can check with our ruler. And I can't work the camera and show you at the same time, but it's exactly 5 3/8 inches off the table here, 5 3/8 inches off the table here. And the next step is to make sure that each corner at the hinge line is exactly the same distance from the flap hinge line at the wing, so that the distance between here and here is the same. So in our next step, I'll show you how we do that. I used a ruler and put markers on the outside of the center line that was drawn on the stabilizer so that I could tell when it was aligned from side to side. So we're just going to eyeball that for right now, and then we'll move on to aligning all the jigs up and getting ready to glue. I went ahead and attached the flaps. They were already slotted and hinged, so I stuck them on and used the trail edge as a butt for the jig sticks, the long jig sticks, to butt up against. So that gives me the distance from the wing to the hinge line on the stab, and so I will go ahead and pin it in place. I have yet to choose the holes, but that'll assure that it's aligned. Both hinge lines will be parallel with each other. And I just backed off and took a picture, and although my rulers confirmed that everything was the same distance off the table on each side, I wanted to eyeball it, and so I put a couple of snapshots that I'll include in the movie to demonstrate that it is indeed square with the wing, parallel with the wing. From here, I'm going to go ahead and pin the long jigs to the stab. Okay, thanks for hanging in there with me. Like I said, I'm learning as I go, and I tried using the long wing jig sticks in order to set the distance from hinge line on the wing to the hinge line on the stab, but it was too cumbersome, too many things to knock around, so I ended up removing these and just using the metric side of my long ruler and pin the stab in place with one pin and another one that I could pull in and out as I made minute adjustments, and finally measured it until I had 457 millimeters to the hinge line, and same thing on the other side, 457 millimeters to the hinge line. So after I got that, I went ahead and pushed that pin in place, checked it again, double checked the height, which hadn't changed. These are wonderful for setting the height. That used correctly could speed your job up. And so I went ahead and tacked the stab in place with some medium CA, and I'm going to let that harden, double check everything. The kit comes with some balsa, I think they're 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch fillets that go underneath. It's just triangle stock that go underneath the stabilizer. I can then push some epoxy into the gaps. I'd rather have epoxy than CA because there are a couple of places where it doesn't meet wood on wood, and I just frankly don't trust CA. So I think we've got it. I think I mentioned earlier the reason I put the flaps on first was so that I would have something to lay the long wing jig sticks onto. I left them though because it gives me an easy prop when I'm butting my ruler up against the hinge line there. So that's pretty simple. I know I took a long time doing it, but that was because I was experimenting just to see what all we could do. But in a nutshell, after you've got your wing on and it's time to put the stab on, just make sure you put marks on the stab so you can tell when it's in place from side to side. Measure to find out which holes you want to use on the stab jig sticks by laying them up against the side where you'll get a perfect measurement. Mark that hole, use the same hole on both sides, and it worked for me. The T-pins, cut them short so you don't have to push them too far in, and I at one time had tacked these jig sticks to the table, and that turned out not to really be necessary after all. That was when I was trying to use the long sticks, but that just complicated everything. So anyway, I hope this helps. This is a great set of tools. It's beautifully cut. All of the holes in all of these jig sticks are in exactly the same place. You can really do a great quick job once you get the hang of it. And when I did the wing alignment, I was doing that, learning on the fly too, and it turned out perfect. So anyway, thanks Walter. I appreciate this and the opportunity to put this on your website. Hope it helps a lot of people out. I'll sign off now. So this is Rockin' Rusty signing off. Thanks a lot. Fly good, fly often. Goodbye.